So the 5 weeks between the end of the regular season for Ohio State, the Michigan loss, and the Peach Bowl was going to allow Ohio State players to get healthy. We talked to Ryan Day today as Ohio State officially accepted their invitation to the Peach Bowl. Not that there was any chance that they wouldn't. And he said still that they're trending towards having pretty much everybody back healthy. A very specific question, though, was the health of TreVeyon Henderson, who came out publicly and talked about the extent of his injuries, the bone issues, ligament issues in that foot. And, Doug, you specifically asked, how healthy is he specifically going to be? We have other guys who were already trying to play, were trending back, but where do you think things actually stand based on the answer we got today from Ryan Day?
So, yeah, I said, is he going to be practicing and preparing to play in the Peach Bowl? And Ryan Day said, well, we should have an answer on that in a couple days. And when they say that, it's not usually in a couple days they announce, he's ready to go.
That's a very similar answer to the one he gave about Jackson Smith-Njigba right before Jackson Smith-Njigba announced he's not coming back. We're going to talk about that more in a second, but yes.
Like, we would like to specifically get our phrasing correct for the announcement of, he's fine. So it certainly feels like trying to, based on the answer, which is we should have something for you in a couple days, and then reading the tea leaves, it feels like TreVeyon Henderson is out for the Peach Bowl, which Stephen had sort of intimated that along the way, like he had talked about running back depth and that kind of thing, but that felt like news today, and so I think Ohio State fans should prepare to not have TreVeyon Henderson.
I think that is also a good guess, just the way things were trending towards the end of the season, and they're already practicing. They had practice today. If he's not out practicing yet, obviously they still have a couple weeks to get him back. But again, just the extent of the way that they were talking about the injury at the end of the season, and the way TreVeyon Henderson had talked about it, made me a little suspect that he would be able to come back. Although I thought if he could come back, I thought he was probably going to play and have a big role. But I agree with Doug's read that that's probably not where it's headed. Today was our first chance to ask Day about Jackson Smith-Njigba since the decision that he's done, that he's not going to play in the playoff. He is done with his Ohio State career. And Day got kind of a delicate question of well, obviously you want a healthy Jackson Smith-Njigba to play. But is there a benefit to knowing he's out of it now and you get to focus your attention towards game planning without him completely for Georgia?
So, of course, he took the coach speak answer there where it's we've been kind of playing without him all year, and it reached a point in the season where this is what we have, and if he comes back, it's a bonus. But also in the middle of the year, he was talking about how many Jackson Smith-Njigba plays they had. So it's maybe somewhere in the middle of both of those two answers. There probably is a benefit to knowing that now instead of maybe 4 weeks from now, because now you get a full month of, okay, we know we don't have Jackson, these are our three receivers, and then we're just going to deal with it like that. But there is somewhere in the middle of all that, because this is the best player on your team, and you haven't had him all year. And as he said, they had built the offense around him. So when you don't have that in the middle of the season, obviously it throws things off guard. So it is going to be interesting to see what this offense looks like with a month of, we know we don't have Jackson Smith-Njigba, so he's not even a bonus in the back of our heads of maybe we get him back.
They said something else that he'd been saying all along, which is nobody wants to play more than Jackson. He's the most frustrated person. And he addressed the speculation that had been out there about how hurt Jackson Smith-Njigba really is and whether he could play if he wanted to. And I thought it was interesting the way he phrased it, that the doctors decided to shut it, to just end it now, to give him some peace. I mean, they did it for medical reasons, but that decision also gives Jackson Smith-Njigba some peace and kind of takes this speculation off of his shoulders. As much as he wishes he were playing, it also sort of ends this back and forth that I think was probably driving everybody a little bit crazy, and certainly we were trying to follow it, and it wasn't easy from a week-to-week basis. So an unfortunate way for him to end his career, but a bright future ahead of him at the next level, and Ohio State has some pretty good receivers that they're going to try to use to beat Georgia regardless. So follow us on the podcast. Get Buckeye Talk 5 days a week wherever you can find podcasts, and get the text 614-350-3315. Multiple times a day we're updating you, things we're hearing, things we're seeing, people we're talking to, everything else around this team from Buckeye Talk.